Today was shoulders dropped, and Arnaud Demar, both of whom are decent time trialists, by the way. They can make up ground today, but their opportunity of taking a stage win yesterday was thrown away by bad positioning.
I think we were talking about it in the run-in. We were trying to pick out the French champion. Where was he? And he stuck behind, and they were just waiting for it to open up. And you know, it's one of these cases where very similar to last year, yesterday's stage, where it just happened very late on. And of course, the positioning of the sprinter is key. I think it doesn't really matter where your team is. The sprinter always has to try and fight and stay where he is, closer to the front. You look at Sagan, he does it all the time. He sits at the front. His teammates come up if they can and try and help him, but he sits as far to the fore as possible. And you know, just the way he rides and the way he went round that last roundabout, picking and choosing wheels. Sometimes, yeah, it can produce costly and dangerous jumping from wheel to wheel to wheel, but he's very good at doing this. Well, Kittel, they tried to do what they did in the Tour, where they were successful in the Tour de France, but the Tour de France stage finish was somewhat faster than the run-in yesterday, and they were able to move up late and then take control and deliver them. But yesterday he was well out of position. I think with about a kilometre to go, he's in about 30th place, where they were going full gas and then easing off before that roundabout, round the roundabout, and absolutely nowhere. So I think Quick Step got it completely wrong last year, maybe a little bit complacent. And I think the sports directors will have had words overnight. Yeah, I'm sure. We saw Ryan Mullen a few moments ago. Then we're just looking at Van Kiersbulk, by the way. You saw Oscar Gatto losing his number. Some of them are stuck on time trialling skin suits, and unfortunately the weather counts against them on occasion, so you don't often see the pins because some of them are actually stuck on. You've also seen the use on occasion of little pouches that the numbers slot into as well. Still haven't sorted numbers out, really. Van Kiersbulk, it doesn't look like he's been down. I think that was just a to hell with it ride. Yeah, it's difficult for a lot of these riders in these conditions. You can just see it's in town, and a lot of white lines. And you know, when you look at the map of the course, it doesn't look that bad. But hearing from Alex a little bit earlier, said it was a very difficult course to judge. And he actually finished with, he said, plenty in the tank. So it just goes to mean when you go out there and you're looking at your power meter, you're setting your threshold, what do you think you can go at for the full whole 9 kilometres? And then you come to like a corner like this, you ease back, you're getting your breath again and then accelerating out again. So a lot of these riders will probably misjudge this course a little bit, especially in the conditions, and finish feeling that they probably could have gone a little bit faster. Yeah. Maybe not in the corners, but maybe throughout the whole course. I think you're right, Brian. The Vermelfort is just coming in, another rider over the 12, and this doesn't bode well for the late runners, I'm afraid, because clearly weather conditions, we're having the slowest times of the day so far, and they're starting to bite. Shame that we haven't had the map to show you. Our providers here have not done us any favors in that regard, but just to tell you, the sequence that we have at the beginning is around about 3 kilometers, and then they take on a series of right-hand bends, 90-degree bends, I should say, a mixture of them, most of them left, strangely, as we bring ourselves back to around 3 kilometers to go, where the road straightens out again. There's no aerial shots, or very few of them, I'm afraid, today, because of the inclement weather as well. They can't fly high enough to give you a GV because of the cloud, which is burst and providing us with this moisture. Ryan Mullen, Irish time trial champion, coming in with a highly respectable time, as you can see. It's could have been an awful lot better. He's had some great results of late, has Ryan. Just 23 years of age, we remind you. 25 seconds down, but the great Philippe Gilbert, around about the same margin, came in just ahead of Ryan. He's had some very good results as well. European Continental Championships, of course, that were only a couple of days past those. Finished himself with a bronze medal. This is Alexander Edmondson. Of course, an Aussie with Orica Scott,
likes better weather than this, but in his gene pool, he's used to coping, Brian, with some grizzly conditions. He's from your neck of the woods, I understand.
Yeah, but a wee bit further up north. He's got family. Well, his family heritage goes back to the north of Scotland. In fact, his grandfather played for Elgin City football team. I think it's still a football team.
It is just.
I think there'll be a lot of people up north not liking me for that comment, but I can't say anything being a Paisley Buddy fan.
There we are. So yeah, Elgin, he lost his marbles, and indeed they lost Grandpa Edmondson as well, who decided to go down under. But Owen Doull coming across the line. I was expecting him to fare well today. Likewise, John Dibbon, actually. Both of whom are strong in these kind of conditions. That was a strong performance.
Yeah, it's, they've come from the last few years from a track background. Okay, they ride a bit of road and track, and yeah, it's nice to see them on the first kind of step of the ladder. Everybody thinks when you kind of made it as you get into a World Tour team, well, it's the first step of the ladder for John Dibbon and Owen Doull, and I think they'll learn a lot and progress, and they'll be the future of British cycling on the road.
Good 6-day riders as well, and
I've seen for more than 6 days though.
They can. They're going to have to here. Of course, this is stage 2 of the 7. Gosh, you can see how gingerly they're taking it. It's a shame when the weather changes such as this, Brian, and essentially it knocks out the competition later into the run. We can't pretend to those at home that it's better than it is. We basically have had our best runs early on.
Yeah, and in this type of event, there's nothing they can do. If it's a road race, and you know we have, you know, there's the extreme protocol for weather, but this isn't extreme. This is just nature, and that's why sometimes in races, especially a prologue, and this isn't a prologue. If it was a prologue, you could decide whether you go off later or at the start. As we get Greg Abola for Barry and Marida just about to start his effort. In a prologue, you get a choice to where you want to kind of start your time trial, and it's down to the team where they place you. This is the second stage, so you go in reverse order. So unfortunately, if you wanted to go one of the riders first off and get it out of the way, I think at the end of the day, most of these riders that maybe finished at the back of the bunch yesterday wanted just to get this time trial out the way, and instead of kind of hanging about all day, they wanted to get out of the way. And I believe that some of the sports directors would have looked at the weather conditions. Everybody knew there was going to be kind of thunderstorms in the afternoon, so they took the gamble, and I think the gambles paid off for many of them.
I think you're right. Starting after Gregor will be Eli Viviani. In fact, here he is. In these conditions, you could probably say he's got the perfect nose for it, dolphin styling. Bless him. But yeah, Viviani is not a content man. In fact, he's on the move after this season, having in Sky colours, or while contracted to Sky, he's certainly achieved a lot, both in the Olympics and elsewhere, but he wants more.
Yeah, I think it was a good signing by Sky.
Me too.
He's come out and got some good results. Just missed out in the weekend and Sunday there for the European Championships. He's a quality bike rider, gold medalist in Rio and the Omnium. So yeah, I think he maybe wants a little bit more, maybe wants a little bit of help. And when you've got a team like Team Sky looking at different areas in the general classification, sometimes they kind of overlook their sprinters.
Gosh, you know, each time that we see this, my mind goes back to those who've got it wrong today. At least Oscar Gatto stayed on the bike, but just, what, 10 seconds shy of the 12-minute mark, where the best times are 11 minutes, or indeed a little bit less in the case of Stephen Kung. Our benchmark is a 10 minutes and 58 today. A little bit of cobblage for you to deal with, and in fact plenty of puddles which are they're now splashing through, quite literally. There we are, Brian. These conditions are actually getting towards dangerous now, and the riders know that, which is why they're knocking it back.
The thing is, in these conditions, you don't take chances. No one does. In the earlier conditions, because it was a little bit dry, you take the risk, and we've seen a couple of falls already.
King then leads by a margin of 4 seconds from Massid Bodnar, with Tom Dumoulin. Don't bother looking for Tony Martin. He fell, I'm afraid, along with others who've taken a tumble today, and everyone else has dialed it back. And so I think 10:58 is probably going to be our winning time.
Yeah, very much looks like that. And as we've seen from the average speeds of Alex Dowsett, who's just slipped out the top 10 now, 48.2, and I believe that the average speeds of Stephen Kung is just under 50 kilometres an hour. Some of these prologues, even when we look at the prologue from the Tour de France, was run out at well over 50 kilometres an hour. So it just gives you an understanding that this course is a lot more trickier than maybe most people thought.
One of the benefits of this new clean air protocol, which is being imposed on many cities around Europe, and indeed potentially the rest of the globe, is that they're going to be taking away the traffic calming devices, which is elevated street furniture, sleeping policemen to you and me. And that's because cars slow down before they hit them and then speed up afterwards, and so it's wasted energy, essentially. There we go. You want to preserve a little bit of energy and shorten the course, then you're quite entitled to do a bit of bunny hopping. That was a nice way of dealing with that roundabout. Good stuff. It's going to be a positive boon to road cyclists, Brian, when they get rid of speed humps.
Yeah, it is. But, obviously traffic slowing measures are in towns like this for a reason. But, yeah, it's going to benefit most people, and likes in Belgium and other places in Europe, they have kind of removable furniture. It's just when we came to Holland quite a few times, the furniture just gets more and more and more, and it's not removable, so it gets very, very dangerous. But it was the same, I think, when we started racing in Switzerland. Even back in my day, there was a lot of road furniture, and cars weren't stopping. But then we had it in Britain as well. It's an education process, and it's a thought process when they're planning out the roads. And I think they're starting to understand that cycling is not going to go away. It's becoming more and more popular.
Well, just look at this. You've got an isolated cycleway in the centre of this highway, between the trees there, both directions, just for cyclists. Pedestrians have got their own, of course, pavements, but that's exactly what you need. In fact, all roads that are built within the Netherlands and Belgium, new roads, have to have an isolated cycleway as part of their design. Sebastian Lagerveld coming in. This is a pacey approach, as you can see. He meant this. Some of these riders are going to be trying to impose themselves a little deeper into this race once we get to our classics days, Amstel Gold Race, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Flanders days, that will round out this great race, formerly the Eneco. These days, BinckBank have come in to sponsor it, so the race name is indeed the name of the sponsor. So it's causing some confusion to some of you, but we're very pleased that BinckBank have indeed taken it on. You see from the flaring of the support car lights here that it's intensifying the weather, and now it's actually splashing off the cameras. In the movies, they say if you can see to see the rain because of the reveal, the way that it works as a flicker book. Let's call in Alexander Edmondson first. However, this is a spirited effort by Edmondson late on, and indeed would have been a challenger, I am certain, had he not gone so late here today. And Alexander Edmondson and everyone up there in Elgin in northern Scotland probably cheering their heads off right now. Gosh, a top 20 this late on is a very, very fine ride.
Oh, very good ride. You see Viviani just coming up to the corner now, just very gingerly. He's got a point to prove in the next couple of stages as he tries to win a stage.
Well, welcome to the swimming pool. Here's Volvo Corner. I'm sorry, Volvo, but you sponsored it. And it's clearly a bit sketchy, is it not?
Yeah, that's the same place that Tony Martin and Niels Paul crashed in, and you can just see that even going around ever so gingerly there, Viviani, a man of his experience, just went around there and the back wheel kicked out.
Yeah, it did. I drive a Volvo, by the way, and very fond of the cars. Anyway, meanwhile, back on course, Viviani looking extraordinarily respectful of the conditions, let's put it that way. Yeah, in the movies, if you want to see rain, they often have to CGI on late on because of the way that pictures are revealed to you. So basically, if you can see the rain falling, it means it's very, very heavy. I'm not talking about the spats on the camera lens, but it's actually starting to sheet down the camera lens right now, and there's a lot of standing water here as well that they're chugging into. Well, here's your man, Marcel Kittel. We've had Jempe Drucker just come off the ramp a few moments ago, but Marcel Kittel, as a junior, was a time trial champion. National time trial champion, I should add. And so it's part of his makeup that he can go well. The conditions here, though, for a man who often, how can I put this, he backs out of sketchy moments. It's not going to be long before he has a few out here. And the opening curves tell you everything you need to know. He's not going to set a blistering time today, I'm afraid. Could have done, I think, if it had been dry, because it would have fallen into his hands, Brian. A power course, 9 kilometres, nobody around him to worry about. Right now, though, it's his contact with the surface that is going to knock him back.
Yeah, with Marcel Kittel, it's all about the acceleration. He's got out the corners, out the technical areas, accelerating quicker up to speed, where others a bit more laboured and getting back up to that speed. Like we were talking a little bit earlier about Alex Dowsett, going round the corners with caution and trying to get back up to speed. Well, Kittel is very good at getting up to speed very, very quickly. And you know, you think after yesterday he'd want to do a very good time trial, thinking of the next 2 stages that are yet to come, which will suit him in a sprint, and he could possibly take that the leader's green jersey. And you got to remember, we go into Belgium in a few days, and if he was to take it in Ardouille in a couple of days' time, then you know, it'd be fantastic for his sponsor, Quick Step Floors. But under these conditions, I've won 5 stages of the Tour de France. Do I really want to risk crashing? That's what I think he's asking himself.
Yes, I think Viviani is riding in a similar vein, to be honest, albeit a lighter man. But Preben van Heck is just coming to the line right now. I'm not sure whether you're seeing these pictures, but he's just crossed the line. Preben van Heck, and here's Van Speybroek as well. Van Heck was well in the 12s. Van Speybroek just comes across the line. Looks like he wants to head straight to a little bit of warmth. A blanket and some hot tea, please. Here's Marcel Kittel then on one of these sketchy corners. Lots of paintwork, as you can see, and we start looking out not only for the elevated furniture, but also for polished storm drain covers, polished by the amount of vehicles that have been over them. Thankfully, they don't appear to be there in the corners, and which would add just yet another element, I'm afraid, for everyone to take care of. I've been impressed by Marcel Kittel on his time trial machine on a number of occasions. He often causes a surprise. I don't think that's going to be the case today. In the Tour de France, he seemed to have just exhausted himself. He was depleted of all resources, it seemed, after taking 5 stage wins, Brian. And that's a fantastic picture. He's just rolling up the foil from some cake. He's been on the rollers. I'm surprised he doesn't swing a leg over one of the arms of that Chesterfield chair. Magnificent. That is Stefan Kung, by the way, who is our leader. And he's got his warm weather gear on, and no surprise, because he's got to sit there until the end. And that's going to take some time. In fact, we've got about 50 minutes of the entire proceedings to go. Peter Sagan will go off in around 40 minutes' time. I don't think he's going to light up the afterburners either, I'm afraid, today. He can afford just to kick back a little bit. But after yesterday's performance by Sagan, I think he's possibly favourite to take the title here.
Yeah, he looked very good. He only just won. I think it was just on the lunge at the end. Bauhaus very close in the end, but Sagan will take it. The world champion, another win. But yeah, just looking at the hot seat, I think the most eloquent hot seat I've seen was in the London 2012, the throne with Bradley Wiggins. That was quite cool. But I think that Chesterfield there with Stefan Kung is up there.
I just love the way they keep hooking back to him playing video games, eating his cake. Gregor Boller, I'm afraid it's not going to be a happy time for him. He's in the 12 minutes and more marker. Some very big gaps been thrown up today by some of those who had a hope in this race.
Yeah, you're finding now we're getting a lot of the riders that were helping their sprinters, the kind of support riders. So they're not looking for the overall. They're not looking for you know, anything else but getting through this course unscathed, not crashing, and looking at helping their team leaders in the next few days to come.
Yeah, and it'll be Marcel Kittel who'll be going for some of the sprints and hopefully manage to keep hold of his sprint train. We talked about the fact that he got disengaged from his yesterday. Andre Greipel, likewise, his sprint train did a great job, unfortunately without him.
Not quite sure about that. That's the chugging into this standing water, and that's destabilizing in itself in terms of confidence. And in fact, Viviani's decided that the spectacles were just so wet. He hasn't ridden with a visor here. You see that sometimes. It's so grizzly out there. He's decided to blink his eyes clean. And in fact, as you can see, it's going to be sprint days for him only. And I think he'll be accepting of today as just something he had to get out of the way.
Yeah, that was something I disliked because I used to have to use prescription glasses when I raced in the wet. I didn't mind the wet weather conditions. It's not being able to see, which was the worst thing.
Yep, exactly.
I used to wear one of the kind of Oppie hats, the peak caps under my hat, and it used to keep about a centimetre and a half of no rain just at the top, but it's your position of your neck. You'd have to position your neck so that the Oppie hat wouldn't put the rain onto your glasses, and you can see a lot of the riders just spraying water on their glasses to try and clear them, but very difficult to do.
Max Verschese, fast man himself, but always on lead-out duties, it seems, of course, for Marcel Kittel, who we've just seen out on course. As he tried to come off the ramp there, back wheel just spun a little bit on the, I think it's vinyl that covers that start ramp. And so a reminder right at the very beginning of just how sketchy this could be. And he takes a big series of turns to get through just one, hexagoning that, Brian, to just get himself into the run.
Yeah, exactly. Verschese, as you said, one of the lead-out riders for Kittel yesterday. Well, Kittel is leaving the team, Gaviria is staying in the team, and yeah, it's very difficult to kind of gel these partnerships together. To see Kamyshev finishing with a time of 12:37, and then closely behind you've got one of the riders from Française des Jeux, Ladagnu, just about to finish in 11 minutes and 42 seconds. But yeah, it's when I really don't like the fact that the UCI are allowed to, you know, they've got that ruling from the 1st of August. You can allowed to tell where you're going, and people know where you're going and things like that. I think it should be somewhat towards the end of the season, because it's all about motivation, and you know, at the back of your mind, you know that someone's not staying in the team, and you know, it's very difficult to commit to 100%. It's really hard on the sports directors to keep everything right.
I think a rule might well be apposite, if you like, that the World Championships are the place for these announcements, and then we will have dealt with all of the Grand Tours. Yeah, exactly that. You complete your events and at the World Championships. I know the season still runs on beyond it for some riders, but really that, I think, would be an appropriate time to have the reveal, as it were.
Yeah, for sure. That would be a start, I think, because it's all happening at the moment. A lot of this speculation, and very difficult for the teams and the riders.
Daniel Poppel off and underway, and in fact we've only got about 35 or so minutes to go before Peter Sagan is the last man off the ramp. Yes, nobody is too keen on the day, as you can see. It's hardly fully committed today. I think you probably have to be if you thought this was great. Ryan Gibbons will be next, then Vinyovsky. Sepp van Mark is somebody I'm looking forward to seeing, actually. He's somebody who is... he'll be in attacking mode, let's put it that way. I think if you are brave enough, Brian, and you are one of those who are thinking about the title here, it's the sort of day that you could find quite a bit of time.
Yeah, but at risks, I think, in these conditions. But I think everybody going through the course pretty much equally the same, like a little bit earlier on when it was somewhat a bit drier. I'm not saying it was dry, a bit drier. Some people were taking risks. I mean, you take risks, there are consequences. Some of them have already had their consequences, including the world champion Tony Martin when he fell. But other people took their risks and are now sitting in the hot seats and sitting well up in the top six.
This brick section here, it's a sort of polished brick, really, and it will have been polished by the vehicles that have come through here. I imagine buses and the like, that have essentially just made the surface a little bit less grippy, because they've basically polished out the nap. Does that make sense? And that little sequence that you saw on the approach of the red bricked area, not necessarily the cobbles, they seem to be a little bit more grippy. Meanwhile, we hook back to Marcel Kittel, who looks like he's out of the seat and powering in. It won't be a bad time for Kittel, this, but he's thinking about sprint days only, I think, along the way. Just having a look at the mech.
I think we're just trying to show the rain coming off the chain now.
Yep. Well, there's plenty of that. They're struggling for arc shots today because basically it's just wet. You always seem to function reasonably well in the wet, Brian.
Yeah, and I always get the question, oh, because you're from Scotland, you enjoy riding in the wet. I said, I don't enjoy it as much as anybody. I like riding in the sun, but yeah, you endure it. You know how to deal with it, and that's the case. But when you look back at childhoods, as we see, that's not Marcel Kittel.
Well,
Stefan Kung finishing.
I think
he's already finished.
Yes.
They're trying to throw some tricks in there.
They're chucking them around. Yeah, it'd be nice to see the course actually as well. Course map for you, but I've tried my best to describe it to you. It looks like a Lego dog, to be honest. A Lego sausage dog. That's how I'm describing it, Brian. In fact, would you want to take a picture and put it up on Twitter for those who are at home and have got are actually spooned up on social media? In fact, it's probably about time we actually came to some of you for some questions. I'll fire it up as we speak. It's been a bit of a juggling act today, I must admit, but nonetheless, here's Marcel Kittel. There's Stephen Kung's time. Brian is indeed, as we speak, taking a photograph of today's course. And as I suspected, it's not a bad effort by Marcel Kittel, considering the conditions and the fact that he's a big man who will go down very hard if his contact point patch with the surface is compromised. There we are, 41st with an 11:36. We've seen plenty of others come through in the 12s. Brian's just sorting a course out right now. It does look... Do you think Lego Sausage Dog sums up the course, Brian?
Well, let's see what others think. I don't know where you get that from, but then again, I don't know where you get some of your information from.
Yeah,
so
it's called imagination, Brian.
Yeah.
Here we are, back out and on course right now. In fact, have we had Ryan Gibbons off yet? Yes, we have. I beg your pardon. This is Reinhard Jansen van Rensburg of South Africa. Nice guy, Reinhard. Really solid guy to have on a team.
Yeah, very good. I tell you what he did in the Tour de France for the lead-outs was absolutely amazing. I'd say one of the best domestics in the sprint trains during Tour de France.
Indeed. No question, says Tequila Donkey. Just a big, dry, warm hug. Well, frankly, we could do with that. Brian's here under sufferance as well, we remind you. One of the walking wounded. Already had one operation, needs another one next week to remove a boulder from his kidneys. Sepp van Mark. Oh, here's a rock. Now, just look at his demeanour. I think this is his bid to take control of this race. He's going to try and be braver. Look at this. This is properly determined. I knew that Sepp van Mark would go for it today. He doesn't mind inclement weather. Now, if he can stay upright, he will try and find time on some of the main contenders for the title here right now.
Yeah, he wants to throw a little bit of caution out there because we've already seen a few crashes already today, but he looks more determined than anybody else we've seen start at this period of time.
Yeah, very much so. Well, don't forget you heard it here first. Sepp van Mark, I think, let's put it out there then, shall we? I think possibly a top 20 position right now, but that bodes well. Time gained here by being brave. Let's hope it doesn't get to be any more crazy than that. By being brave is time you don't have to find when we get to our classics days a little bit later on. He's clearly going for it.
Yeah, he limits his losses today, and he was up there towards the front in the sprints yesterday. So yeah, obviously feeling good, and wants this course will suit him through the next few days, and especially the last few days. So yeah, Sepp van Mark will be thinking about trying to win this overall. I think so. Danny van Poppel already out on course. We've got Dylan van Baal, who I think will also go well, and Josh Sutterlin, who was 6th in the Dauphiné, you remember. I think that youngster from Germany and Movistar will also go well. We'll take a break, back in a moment.
What is this place?
The Modern Software Factory, a hub of digital transformation.
Is this where we come to compete?
This is what you build.
Button. That would mean lifting your hands off the bars, and that's exactly what you don't want. Richesi coming in, and I think, well, that tells you everything you need to know. He's saving himself to be lead out for Kittel in the next 2 days of sprinting, which will take us to our classics days. Meanwhile, out on course, this is Danny van Poppel you're looking at right now. And again, everybody, we remind you, just about is 10 seconds down on the leader, Sagan, courtesy of his 10-second bonus yesterday, because everyone finished together. But there will be some big gaps today, I think. And if you're brave, then you'll be able to set some of them and maybe just move closer towards the leader's jersey. And Sepp van Mark a few moments ago is exactly that. This is Josh Sutherland, the youngster from Germany. Just talking, Brian, about the fact that he's part of a new wave of riders, and it's going to have a great contract with Movistar. In fact, he's extended for another couple of years with them. Only 24 years of age, and well, how would you describe him apart from quiff-tastic, just like Marcel Kittel? He's got a Kittel hairdo. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I think he's a talented young rider. He's been around a few years, and I think he's broken through with his performance side of things over the last kind of 12 months or so. And I think that's why Movistar are backing him. He's another rider that's very capable of doing a good time today and doing something special in this race.
Second to Tony Martin in the Nationals, by the way. Tony Martin's taken a tumble here today. It's Danny van Poppel. And yes, it's going to be out in the 40s, I'm afraid, which kind of underscores what Marcel Kittel did out there, hovering around the top 20 as we speak. But yeah, I'll be fascinated to see what Josh Sutherland does. He's got a young man's view of his own mortality, I think, if we can put it that way, or his own impregnability, which means he's likely to take a few more risks. Sepp van Mark is really pushing on this course, knowing that he's embedded within those who are going to be going for the general classification. Starting the day as he does around there in about 28th place, but all on the same time difference. He's clearly motivated. He's putting a lot of power down here. He's giving the corners respect, Brian, but it's the bit between his teeth when he needs to. He's doing a good job.
He's trying his hardest. Whether his hardest will be good enough in the end, that's what we'll have to kind of wait and see. Often people will look a lot more comfortable, but they're actually riding a bit slower. But certainly his commitment is 100% to this time trial. And we're going to have to wait a little bit to see what his end result is.
You'll be pleased to know, Brian, that my description of the map has met with approval by many who do see the sausage dog in today's map.
I cannot believe there's some other people out there that think the same as you, Carlton.
Bex says, I see the sausage dog. She's given the thumbs up. We've got Ginty. She also sees exactly what I'm talking about. So back in your box, mate. Here we are. Some of you talking about that there's got to be a better way than pins. Well, here is the Cannondale team, as you can see, with a pochette, a plastic sleeve on the backside. Yeah, exactly. Well, a pochette is a pouch that's also a pocket. But anyway, here's Vinyovsky was working hard yesterday to try and tee up Viviani. In fact, it's not a bad time actually for Lukasz.
Yeah, good young, talented Polish rider. Had his problems with kind of a wee bit of illness and injury, and nice to see him back, actually.
Yep. Solid, I think you might say. It's strange when you come across riders that within a team such as Team Sky, but their roster is so accomplished. It is possible to be quite anonymous within a big team such as Sky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's sometimes kind of difficult. Most people want to go to the world's best teams, and when you go to the world's best teams, you become a little bit anonymous, and that's why we see sometimes riders have dropped down a level to, you look at Warren Barguil now, dropped down to second division because they want, that opportunity, saying that that's probably not a best example because Warren Barguil won 2 stages of Tour de France and the King of the Mountains title, but most riders, young riders, want to go to the top, sometimes it's not that important for your own development if you're riding for a second division team, giving yourself an opportunity.
Yeah, Warren Barguil, just to inform you, has taken King of the Mountains jersey, of course, in the Tour de France, but at a couple of stages, has dropped down to Fortuneo Vital Concept. So he's relying, essentially, Brian, on invites for his team in order to function at the highest level.
Yeah, and I think they will get the invites. It's most important to the teams. He won't get opportunities to ride possibly the Giro or the Vuelta. For sure, they'd have to go through the wildcard system, but I'm sure that the Tour de France invite will be there, especially with Warren Barguil. And it's a good investment to one of his kind of local teams. He's from the Bretagne area, and if he goes to Fortuneo, it just gives them a huge boost.
Well, I hope they back him up. You know, I'd hate to see him taking a slingshot to a gunfight, as it were. You know, he needs some firepower behind him as well. They need to spend more money than just him.
I think it will help. It will also help Dan McLay. If Dan McLay does in fact stay with that team, it'll probably help him. Some sprinters would think, well, if a potential GC contender or somebody like that comes to the team, then where's the place for me? And you know, obviously thinking of the Tour de France next year with Dan McLay, with Warren Barguil there, would he be in part of the team? So it's sometimes good to have a sprinter as well.
Just look at Sepp van Mark in these conditions, taking the turn here, probably what, about 5, 6, 10 seconds ahead of some of those around him. These are horrible conditions, don't forget, and he may well get a top 20 just outside of that marker by the looks of it. A lot of riders stacked against each other here, but nonetheless, good run by Sepp van Mark. An 11:31. There'll be plenty of others who are going to suffer, I'm afraid, a worse fate than he today. He really went for that in very, very challenging circumstances. And likewise, this is Dylan van Baarle. Looks like he's not hanging around either.
Yeah, both of them are doing exactly the same. Dylan van Baarle has been up in the Eneco Tour before, a very good rider. And likewise, an outsider for the overall victory. So both Dylan van Baarle and Sepp van Mark have been given the instruction to go as hard as they can.
Oh, moisture's got into the camera here as well. Josh Sutherland looks like he's riding in a tunnel vision for us, but for him it's a question of getting his head down. This is a good time trialist you're watching, only beaten by Tony Martin at the German trials. He'll certainly beat Tony Martin's time today, Tony having taken a tumble. He's a young rider who knows how to road race. That Comunidad Madrid that he won, that stage on behalf of Movistar, must have made them think, wow, what a great signing we've got here. And he's going for it today. He's looking sprightly. Yeah,
quality rider. And we just talked about Van Mark and Van Baarle for overall victory. Then Sutherland, do not discount him because he's a quality bike rider and across many disciplines.
Jonas Rickert drawing the attention of our Belgian and indeed Netherlands television providers here. André Greipel had just come off the ramp beforehand. I was looking forward to seeing André Greipel, actually, if only to see how miserable he looked. Yesterday, Greipel appeared to sit up. His shoulders have dropped a bit of late. He was bruised by the results of the Tour de France. And yesterday, his train left him at the platform.
Yes, they did, and they did get in a good position coming into the sprint, but it's I think yesterday's sprint just shows, and looking at Tour de France, that maybe the long sprint trains have now gone.
I think so. Van Baarle coming to the line. Unfortunately, the clock's missing, and there it is. 37 seconds, so his teammate Sepp van Mark did find some time on his teammate, both equally committed. You're possibly thinking, well, maybe they should be after going out on a day such as this. We've got Arnaud Demar, by the way, who is already as well underway. I'm surprised we didn't see too much of him coming off the ramp as we were watching for Jonas Rickert, but nonetheless, here's just Sutherland. Check this out for a time. Well, I said it was going to be good, but I didn't expect to be this good. That is bravery personified, and of those who've gone late, this is setting his stall out, Brian, for deeper into this race. What an impressive performance by the young German. Going to stop the clock with a top 20 time this late in. That is super. An 11:22.
Yeah, very good time by Jasper Suttel, and it shows he's up for this race. Probably learned from maybe Alex Dowsett before in the time trial, and went out there in difficult conditions and set the fastest time of the conditions at this part of the course.
Well, frankly, I think that's one of the rides of the day so far. That was quite remarkable. I'm proud of him on behalf of his dad. Kungno's time won't be beaten, I don't think, today. It would just be too dangerous to try and approach anything nearer the 11-minute mark, but all credit to Sutton, who's just finished, proving that Dauphiné result was no surprise, or indeed shouldn't have been a shock, and likewise his efforts at the Nationals in Germany. We'll keep an eye, back in a moment.
What is this place?
The Modern Software Factory, a hub of digital transformation.
Is this where we come to compete?
This is what you build to compete. We're inside.
Tom van Esbroek bringing it in. At the moment, some very late runs which have been impressive. Set Van Mark. But Josh Sutton, for me, of Movistar, has just been outstanding. We're speculating as to how Peter Sagan will go. Now, I can tell you it's brightening. The rain is still coming down, but the wind has eased because we've been from a southeasterly, we've swung round to a southwester, which brought in the rain, and it's now a northwester. So the wind has dropped, and it may well be that we start to see some times pick up, and this could be in the favour of Peter Sagan a little bit later on. Boy van Poppel has got himself off and underway. Dylan Groenewegen, the powerhouse that is of Team Lotto Jumbo, will be off the ramp next. Then it's Mark McNally with Magnus Cort Nielsen, Elmar Reinders, Phil Bauhaus, De Vries from yesterday's break, who did so well to get himself some bonus seconds, which is why he's starting so late. And of course Peter Sagan finally. Sagan goes off in about 13 minutes time, so I suspect we might, even though the damp conditions here, have some fireworks late on. Tim Merlier coming in. Good lad, but not a good time, I'm afraid, here on a very grisly day in Voorburg. One thing that's amazed me, Brian, is the enthusiasm of the crowd. Everyone's properly kitted out for this Dutch summer.
Yeah, the cafes will be busy because most of the race will be on in the local cafes and things like that. But yeah, there's still a lot of people like to see some of these cycling stars live. You know, it's only probably, you know, a couple of times a year they get the opportunities in this area to see some world-class bike riders. And yeah, they support it. You know, you've got to remember that still in Europe and these part of the world, cycling is, you know, up there in the top 3 sports. Indeed, and in fact, when you get to Belgium, it's hard to think of anything that will beat cycling in terms of its draw. Nonetheless, Jesper de Boist deep in his run, and this is Dylan Groenewegen. I think he'll be worried about the first few corners, if you can remember Dusseldorf. Yes, it wasn't an auspicious start. In fact, we thought that had knocked out his credentials for the sprints, but he slowly but surely built himself up to what a crescendo when he won up the Champs-Élysées in Paris. Yeah, I think he could thrown away all the other opportunities he had when he won in the Champs-Élysées. That's the biggest you can get as a sprinter. That's the biggest stage you can win, and some people wait for years to do it, and he's done it in his second ever year. Yeah, quite remarkable. Well, we'll see how he goes on the course today, but you saw he's got a lot of power there. He's delivering it right now. Others, I'm afraid, like Arnaud Demar, are on a bit of a jolly today, if you possibly could. Look at that time. He's going to be nudging up towards the 13-minute mark. Is this a man who really fed up from yesterday after he lost the line of his sprint train? He'll be leaving it to tomorrow to try and make amends, but there we are, stopping the clock at 12:49. In fact, is that the slowest time we've had so far? It looks like it could be, but he was riding as fast as he was after the line as he was before. Well, nice wee smile there. There it is. Get back to the bus quicker. He's riding across the line there about as fast as he finished yesterday after he'd thrown his hands up with a abu to the heavens. There we go. Jasper de Boist, likewise, it's an equally, I'm afraid, modest time today. And for those of you who stuck with us throughout this time trial, give yourself a pat on the back. Joan Kimmel says,
So loving your commentary. Hated not having you on the Tour de France. I was here, Joan. I was there. You probably just tuned in at the wrong time. Yeah, big team, but I'll be with you, Joan, for the maybe she means the Giro. I don't know. I was playing somewhere else that day during that event. But yes, I'll be back for the Vuelta with Sean Kenny. Looking forward to it. Van Groenewegen then. What a superstar. As they say with sports cars, if it looks fast, it probably is fast, and that's the case with Groenewegen. We made a lot of this man, Edward Planckaert. In fact, we were looking at him and ignoring the likes of Greipel, etc. Not quite sure why, but anyway, there we are. He's probably local.
Yeah, I think it's the spacing out of the other riders that are starting at this time. They've only got so many cameras, so they can only follow so many riders.
Well, I'm glad you've used that as an excuse, Brian, but yeah, I think it's because basically he's a local boy. But anyway, here we are. Out, somebody's looking it up now. Groenewegen still doing his thing. And here we are, Mr. Happy. Andre Greipel, 60th place. Just get this out of the way, Andre, and then try and hold on to your sprint train tomorrow. He's had a few knockbacks in his career, Greipel, but he always bounces back, and I expect him to see him go well in the next couple of days. Yeah,
he's won in this race before. He's won in Ardouille, so yeah, he's experienced enough rider. You know, he's up against a few sprinters that, in his own words, are you know, just kind of hard to beat now, but he'll be there and thereabouts. He's not going anywhere soon.
No. As you can see, just touching the power meter. I don't know what readings he's going to get. It probably just says wet. Groenewegen, busy. Mark McNally is already off and underway. Jonas Rickert, this was the man that they were focusing on. They expected him to go well. It's not a bad time, actually, to be fair, for the youngster. And it's nice to see that the local TV crews are supporting the local teams.
Yeah, exactly. The Belgian team here in Holland. It's Sport Vlaanderen, the only team in professional cycling from Flanders.
Secret to the name. Magnus Cort Nielsen got a good finish yesterday. Off and underway. The Danes go well in when it's inclement. And in fact, Soren Kragh Andersen is fourth quickest, so they could be keeping it in the family, as it were. His family, mainly from down under, and the motorbike camera. All credit to them, by the way. It's been impeccably well covered, this. They're used to it and used to these kind of conditions. I guess that's in the favour of the technical crew.
Yes, they are. A lot of Europe are getting very hot weather. Unfortunately for Holland and Belgium, they're getting some thunderstorms, but very hot, I believe, in many parts of southern Europe.
Well, we're talking over 40 Celsius in places, and to be honest, that's a bit too hot for me. When I'm still carrying my sun scorch from the Tour de France, by the way, which is basically just a red head. I'm not a redhead, I've just got a red head. Brian, don't laugh too much. You've got those operation marks.
No, that's a button I press just to laugh. It's not my natural one. I've got a button I can press just to laugh, just to make you feel better.
Acknowledge it. Oh, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. This is Groenewegen just coming to the end of his run round that sketchy corner. Nothing to do with Volvo, by the way. Sure have upset some people over there, but there we are. So just waiting for Peter Sagan, frankly, to de-ramp. He'll be coming off the ramp in a few moments' time. I was hoping that we were going to see Paul Bauhaus. In fact, I think we might, after we've seen Almar Reinders. Does it mean pigskin?
I don't know. I thought they only used them at Christmas.
I see what you did there, Brian. I like that one. I wish I'd thought of it. Anyway, Mr. Reinders is about to get underway. Scratchings to you and me. Gosh, did you see the kick-up on the ramp there? I think it's a carpet. And I actually saw rather like a squeegee as he came off the ramp there. He was clearing water from the ramp. It was like a little fountain either side of his wheel as he came off.
Well, clearly it does the grippy job. I thought it was vinyl, but it's not. It's a carpet, and quite right too. Up to one of these traditional counterweighted bridges. That's for when you need to bring your sailboat up the canals, Brian.
I don't have one, so I wouldn't know that.
I know.
I don't mind about that anyway.
You just stick to your helicopter. Meanwhile, out on course, Magnus Cort Nielsen doing his thing as we wait for Phil Bauhaus to get underway, another young German that's been hugely impressive of late.
Yes, oh, he's given up everything now. He's just sitting there. He's getting close to it.
Yeah, they're cheering him up by going back to him. They haven't given him anything to play with. He's read a book.
Yeah.
He's warmed down. He's changed clothes. He's had his cake. He's played a video game, and now he just wants to go home.
Looks like he will have his cake and eat it, because I can't see anybody going as fast as him.
Well, he set off, to be fair to him, what, 3 hours ago? So he's been there for quite some time.
Everybody else is back in their hotel room, relaxing.
Yeah, and he's basically got to go to the podium. He'll have to be back in his team colours and take his coat off, I imagine. Here's Groenewegen then, just to complete the duty, which is what it's become, hasn't it, for the late runners?
Yeah, I don't think for Groenewegen it's important that he takes any chances. A couple of sprint opportunities coming up over the next couple of days.
Here's Phil Bauhaus. Well, check that out for a groovy livery. This is the man who's nursing one of our funky jerseys here today. It is the points jersey that belongs actually to Peter Sagan, but it looks like a sort of a how can I describe it? Well, let's watch Rick. Well, we'll watch Rick Zabel come in, but it's of no great shakes. 12 minutes and 13 seconds. Yeah, it looks like a
blue jersey.
No, I was going to say something from pop art, actually, but there you go. But yes, it is the blue jersey that actually belongs to Peter Sagan. He'll be in the green jersey a little bit later.
What is this place?
The modern software factory, a hub of digital transformation.
Is this where we come to compete?
This is what you build to compete, where insight drives experience, where automation delivers better apps faster, where agile isn't just a buzzword, it's a way of life.
What about security?
Strong.
It was chaotic then, and this is likely to be in a very different way. He's a great bike handler, Brian. It bodes well for a strong run, and he's going to have to get one. He needs to be within about 20 seconds of the best time, and then he really will have taken control of this race.
Yeah, I think he just, first and foremost, he had the stage win yesterday. Today is staying upright and doing the best time possible. He's thinking more of the overall, because when we think of the leading time at the moment, and we can remind everybody of that leading time of Stefan Kung, it's 10 minutes and 58 seconds at an average 49.2 kilometers an hour. I don't think that will be beaten today, but do I really think that Peter Sagan can get within 10 seconds of it? I'm not too sure in these conditions.
No, I don't think he'll still be the leader at the end of today, but frankly, the way he is riding, anything is possible. Brian, every single one of these corners, he's trimming beautifully at the moment, and he is hyper-motivated.
Yeah, he would be. He's in the leader's jersey. I think, you know, smarting a little bit. You can see the way he was riding in Poland about his disqualification from the Tour de France. He's come back with a bit of vengeance and rode really well in the Tour of Poland. He's come here. He wants to win this race. The parcours suit him, and he's certainly going to give it a good go today. Yeah, it's a great race, this. It's an amalgamation of those of you who missed out yesterday. The explanation. They've basically drawn together some of the great classic races, Samson Gold Race, the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Flanders. They make up the last 3 stages of this race. Sprinters in advance of that, and of course, you have this time trial as well. Mark McNally, strong rider, but today is not his strength, and I think that's proving itself right now. He's going to be outside of the top 100. But safely completed, and it was a good finish yesterday by the rider from Wanty Group Gobert, and I'm expecting him to go well again tomorrow. We expect Peter Sagan to be in defensive mode, not necessarily to win the time trial today, although he'll give it a good go, but to impose himself upon this race. He will, of course, go brilliantly as this race draws to a conclusion, but also, oh, look at that, a double bunny hop. So not just going up and onto the top of some street furniture, but vaulting it entirely. We're going to see that move again. I'm hoping we get a slow-mo.
He is on a mission, Brian.
Yeah, just trying everything to get the fastest out these conditions. Very difficult for the late starters here in the time trial, the second day here in the BinckBank Tour. But Peter Sagan, if he can sprint well over the next couple of days, maybe take some more bonus seconds, limit his losses today, and then go into the final 3 stages, which are fairly hilly.
To be honest, if he gets in the top 20, he'll be favourite to take the title, full stop. We've got some sprint days coming up, and if the weather stays as grisly as it is, and Peter Sagan is likely to cope very well. King there is our leader, as you've just seen. The only rider, in fact, to go under the 11-minute mark. Everybody else, including the main players who will be gunning for the title late on, have come late to the party. This is Magnus Cort Nielsen. This is a very strong run as well. It'll be outside of the top 40s, I imagine, but use it as a benchmark, if you will, by which we will measure Peter Sagan. Magnus Cort Nielsen, strong rider, often thrives in grisly conditions, but when you factor in a time trial as well, it's a hard thing to master as he crosses the line, and 47 seconds in arrears of the best time so far. One man who was very determined was Sepp van Mark. Josh Sutherland as well produced a remarkable performance as well to open his account essentially for this race. There'll be others out there, I think, who are in danger of being caught, and this is one man, Laurens de Vries. If he takes it easy, well, with a 2-minute margin, he's unlikely to be caught, but there we are. You can ignore the intermediate time checks. They look slightly dodgy at the moment. I don't think de Vries is 1 second down overall, but I think as it stands right now, in the GC, I should say, as opposed to the today's stage, this is one of the corners that have been foxing a few out there. In fact, Tony Martin took a tumble, so did Niels Pollitt. And the best of the best of the Germans, Josh Sutherland, doing a stellar job out there. As far as the top 10 is concerned, it was nailed down early on, and so it's about how those of the late runners, where we find most of our general classification contenders late on. This is the sketchy corner that caught out so many, and this particular camera on this particular motorcycle has had a bit of water inundation, as you can see. But Peter Sagan is, well, he's wrestling as best he can throughout these appalling conditions, Brian. It's a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's always entertaining as the current world champion and leader of this race so far after his stage win yesterday. But Stefan Kung looks as if he'll be taking that leader's jersey into tomorrow's stage for BMC. But Tom Dumoulin has to be happy with this, and because Tom Dumoulin's sort of rider, they're looking more for the overall victory. Can climb well. Soren Kragh Andersen, even Yves Lampaert in 6th place at the moment. Tim Wellens, previous winner of this race, a good performance today, only losing 17 seconds on Stefan Kung. So they're the sort of riders that have done well today, limiting losses in the time trial and looking at overall victory next Sunday.
Reinders comes home again with a big deficit, getting on for a minute down, 53 seconds adrift of the best pace today. It's worth comparing what Josh Sutherland has done with those who've come afterwards. I'm just wondering whether Sutherland might be entering the minds of those who are minded to have a wager in this race. The youngster for Movistar looking very, very strong. We'll see how he functions when we get to some of the rolling stuff, but he's been riding very well on the road and has done a great job late on in the time trial amongst those who can feature when it does get tough. There's some big inclines to come in this race, not necessarily in terms of altitude gain, but certainly in terms of percentage and test.
It's definitely a race of two halves. Apart from the time trial, the first 3 stages are predominantly kind of sprint stages, and then we could get very hilly stages. But it's not hilly when we think of the Alps, the Pyrenees. These are short, sharp climbs. If we think of Amstel Gold, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and the Tour of Flanders, that's the sort of hills we're talking about. So it's kind of tradition over the last few years in this race. It always produces a kind of strong rider that's kind of type of classics rider, and exactly what we're seeing on the screens at the moment. This is sort of rider that this Eneco Tour, BinckBank Tour, former Eneco Tour produces winners like Peter Sagan.
Here's Phil Bauhaus, and a strong finish by him as well. This is very, very good from the German youngster. They seem to have found a real crop of great talent, and Phil Bauhaus proved yesterday that he's not only decent out as a road racer, but as a sprinter as well. And his time trialling today, well, you probably would be a little bit disappointed, but his spittle-laced chin here tells you the effort that he's actually put in, and for that we thank him. 79th place along the way today. Sort of a marker, I think you might say, but possibly one of doom. Lawrence de Vries is the next man home if Peter Sagan doesn't catch him, and right now we're catching our breath watching him.
Yeah, we certainly are. The conditions consistent, which is maybe a good thing, that you don't take the risks. And Peter Sagan, one of the best bike handlers in the peloton, so he'll be again wanting to try and get the best possible time. Good effort for this man yesterday. Got in the breakaway, took all the bonus seconds in the golden kilometre, which gave him a longer lie this morning, but meant he was in the worst conditions in today's time trial.
Gosh. Well, they moderated the conditions just to allow, I think, Josh Sutherland to have a decent run, and they've got bad again. So it's hampering the late runners, the very, very late runners. It's the eternal inconsistent occasionally. There's nothing you can do about the weather, Brian, and when it has this variable nature, which you've got today, it makes it fascinating for us, but it must be so frustrating for the riders.
That has to be, and you know, with it, if it was a prologue, then they would have, some of the riders would have a choice. Obviously, all the teams would have to, you know, somebody would have to go off in the wetter conditions, but nobody can predict the weather, not even the weathermen. So it's very difficult to decide, and over this time trial today, the decider was yesterday. It's where you finished in that stage yesterday to determine where you're going to start today.
Lawrence de Vries, it's going to be in the 70s, isn't it? And possibly worse by the time he comes to the line. And just look at the time. Stefan Kung time. It was a good time. Let's not beat about the bush, but the likes of Jos van Emden, who went the wrong way. He went down the exit lane for the support cars, and I think he was on potentially a winning drive then, but it didn't happen for him. Lawrence de Vries way down, 119th home, 119th best on the day. Couldn't really describe it as best, but this man may well be by the time we reach the end of this race. Peter Sagan, last man on course, and Sports are doing a great job of staying close to him at the moment. Don't cut him on the inside. He hasn't found the driest part of the road, but that's because he's quite happy with his contact patch, and indeed how he's taking these curves. Let's see how much respect he gives the next one, which is coming up right now. He seems to know the course extraordinarily well. He's cutting all the apexes as you would even in the dry. This is a motivated man.
I think so, and I think a reasonably good ride now, because he's 2 minutes at deficit to de Vries in front of him, and it looks as if he's going to be finishing fairly quickly.
Wow, Peter Sagan coming in, and this is as brave and a gutsy performance as you're likely to see. This is outstanding. Peter Sagan, in these conditions, we remind you, it's been wet all day, but nothing like this. And he's going to get himself, what, top 20 spot? But more important than that, this is a huge grab. 17th place today at 11:23. Is anything going to stop this man in this race from becoming the title winner of the first BinckBank? He's looking good, Brian.
Yep, 25 seconds lost to Stefan Kung, which will mean that he'll be 15 seconds off him in the overall, which isn't bad, considering we've got 2 sprint stages coming up. He's very capable of getting bonuses there, and then we go into the climbs, the classics days, and he's well suited to the type of races as well.
Well, don't forget the bonuses that come along as well. They'll be potentially hunting down the golden kilometre, where we have 3 sprints locked together late on in the next 2 days, where the fast men will be able to find plenty of time. Peter Sagan, you know, he may well be given to going for some of those. Certainly the 10-second bonus at the finish line that gave him the lead in this race. He's lost the lead overall today, Brian, but don't be surprised if he regains it in the next couple of days, and certainly towards the end of this race.
Well, he's kept himself in the top 10, which is the good thing. But the winner of today's stage is
Stefan Küng, doing it for Switzerland and BMC, the only rider to come in under the 11-minute mark. Had the advantage of going early, but there was lots of time trialists who went out early as well, and Küng had the beating of them. Very, very accomplished ride by the Swiss. And, well, quite frankly, he may well be a contender late on. He's not that bad when we come to rolling terrain. Is he the equal of the likes of Peter Sagan, though, and others that will hope to regain time when it gets lumpy this race?
It's going to be interesting. It's an interesting day today, but I think when we look at the results here, that we had most of the best time trialists off early in kind of drier conditions. And I think this would have been the result. Okay, some late riders would have had maybe faster times, but I think these are the best time trialists we had in today's events: Küng, Bodnar, Dumoulin.
Well, you just saw Tom Dumoulin, that's his Bodnar, runner-up on the day, and this man has had the beating of everybody. Stefan Küng. Look at that. Rock and roll of the head. I don't think at that point he would have been aware that this race was day was to belong to him.
And he'd have a day of sitting in a Chesterfield's chair reading a book.
Indeed. Reading a book, having a slice of cake. Just my kind of training, Brian. Thanks for your company, by the way.